Hi, Danette. Trying to find out if I was actually live or not. Hi, Patricia. I was having some, I dropped the camera before I started. Hello, Denise. Hi, Julie. You roll up my sleeves and get started. So we have two things we could make today. We could either make two little 3D boxes, so two mini treat holders, or, and this one's pretty simple too, we'll do these two. So we'll either do these two, or we can assemble and decorate the Christmas countdown kit, and it's not in a Christmas style that piques your interest. So I'm going to put these out while we talk about some things. So we have this. So we can either assemble this, or we can make these two treat holders, and we'll make them in a fall-ish theme. Hi, Yvonne. Good morning, Wanda, Angel, Donna, Stacy. Thank you all for joining. So a few things while we're getting started. I could not pick a winner personally, so I went to a name picker because everyone who entered into the, oh my gosh, what did I call it? I can't even think what you would call it, who entered to make a card like I made. What would you call that? I can't even think of it. It was some sort of a challenge. I just looked at this and I already can't remember what it was. Anyway, the challenge to make the card that looked like the frame card. So I found 6 people who were entered, and I put their names in because I liked everyone's cards so much for the card challenge that I could not personally choose a winner. And I really wanted to send everybody something, but I thought, well, that's not really picking a winner, Rachel. And that's my problem, is I have a hard time choosing. So I put it into a random comment generator, and Diana was the winner. So if you haven't checked that out, Diana, you were the winner. So if you could please private message me your mailing address, I will send you a prize. She made a beautiful card. So what we'll do is we'll do that again because I think it's pretty fun. And I found a lot of stuff that I have, so many things that I'd love to share with everyone. The case challenge. Thanks, Denise. Sheesh. So I picked Diana from the random name picker. So I put all the people who made a card in, and then I picked Diana was the one that was picked from it because I couldn't choose because I thought they were all really, really good. So if you haven't seen that, head over to that post. And then also, just as a side note, Pamela posted hers to the community part of the Rachthestamper page. So hers is on a little bit separate of a spot, but she has a beautiful card as well. She actually used the Daisy stamp set. So thank you all. Yes, it is a case challenge. Good gravy. I can't think of anything this morning. So thank you all for entering, and we will do it again. So, no notifications. That's not surprising. You know, Facebook, they change stuff all the time. So, we are going to either make these two treat holders today, or we're going to assemble the Christmas Countdown Project kit, but we're going to decorate it differently. We're not going to do it for Christmas. I saw this amazingly cool idea that I want to share with you guys, but the only thing we really would be doing for that part is decorating. And also, I'm going to be changing a little bit of the way I do my Facebook Lives. So I'm still working on testing that out. So I will let you guys know probably the next time you see me once I get it figured out. That's the way we'll do it from then on. So that'll be fun. You didn't get it? Yeah, you know, I didn't even get a notification that mine was there as well. So you did get one, Julie. Wow, you're special. You must really like me a lot. Okay, so a couple of things I wanted to share with you guys. As always, if you would like to subscribe for the Paper Pumpkin Kit, which for October and November will be a Christmas themed kit, which you can they coordinate, but they can also be separate. You have to sign up for that by October the 10th. The sooner you sign up, the better, because sometimes with those kits that are coordinating, you will, they'll sell out. So if that's something that you want to do. I'm trying to think what else. The treat holders. These treat holders, if that's what you're talking about, Yvonne. I made these. Some of these I've watched other people's videos, but they're just templates that I share. And I have a bunch of different treats to put in them. Actually, I'm working on a lot of that kind of stuff. So yesterday when I was at Costco, I just had to buy these Hershey Nuggets. And there's also Special Dark because I was like, well, I can use them when I make treats. So that's how I justified buying this gigantic bag of Hershey Nuggets. I have a problem. And then I also have some Halloween things because maybe you might have some different sized stuff that should fit in. So these, if you can get these at Target, these 3 things all come in a variety pack. So you could probably jam any of these into these 2. These are the Halloween Snickers and Twix singles. And then we have Utz Halloween pretzels, which these are about the same size as the mini cheese balls that I usually use. So lots of different stuff. We'll see what fits. I also got just the regular little miniatures. So you could put these in as well. So some of these will fit and some of them won't, but this is a little smaller box coming up. I am going to eventually share a larger box because I've been kind of fooling around with these to see how big of one we can get out of just a regular full sheet of paper. So stay tuned for that as well. So treat holders, I'm seeing treat holders. Your notifications are turning on, you still didn't get one. You know, you have a problem too. Thanks, Denise. That makes me feel better. I don't get notifications for most people, and lots of them are the people that are like my top tier groups that I'm in, and it still doesn't tell me. So quite honestly, I don't know, which is probably massively annoying for people that like to watch people. So I got 1 vote for treat holders. So treat holders, and if we don't do this, what I'll do is I will do a separate video. I don't really know when I can do another one, but I'd like to say maybe I could fit it in tomorrow, but I'm not really sure. But I really want to put this together because the way this was assembled was pretty cool. You just got the notification. Maybe it's because there's not enough people watching me. Like after you hit a certain number of people or something, who knows. Hi, Tina. Thanks for stopping in today. All right, Danette said treat holder. So treat holder wins. So I am going to do the, it's an advent calendar, which is what the kit is sold as in the holiday catalog. But I saw this really cool idea. I'm sure I'm not the first person to share it in our Stampin' Success magazine, which is if you're a demonstrator, you get this magazine mailed to you every quarter. Had a really cool idea for this. So that's why I wanted to make that. So I'm going to make that video later. But right now, let me move all this candy up to the side. And this is all fresh candy, so I at least could eat this. But normally the candy in my craft room is kind of eat at your own risk. So what we're going to do is we will do these 2. And I was thinking, so it's up to you guys. We could do 1 fall-ish and 1 Christmas-ish decoration. That way it's not really like Halloween. You could change the Halloween paper, but I'm going to use that new paper I got. Because, let's see. So I'm going to use the Come Together paper for one of them. So in case you missed this, this is that Designer Series paper. This is actually the other side of that one. So I'm going to use this to decorate one of them. And then I'm going to use, because I did manage to get myself a pack of, where is it? What's this one go with? I think that's that. I'm going to do the other one with the Feels Like Frost paper. So that is not on back order any longer. So it's kind of could go like Christmas or winter. So we're going to decorate with those 2. So since I have those out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a paper color, depending on which paper we pick, and then we'll pick the background for it. Oh, your son just ate all. You know what? I just finished eating some candy from Easter too, Danette. I'm ashamed to tell you, I also have some candy from Valentine's Day that I see is perfectly good. So why would I throw it away? So this paper is nice because you can either have a really glammed up side with the silver foil, or you could use this little bit simpler of a side if you wanted something more wintry. So let me see what looks kind of like would be pretty. I think this one, I'm going to use this side. I'm going to use this piece for that. So that kind of is pretty neutral. So maybe we could do this on, I don't really know how purple is going to necessarily be a Christmassy, but let's see what this might look like. Balmy blue's a little bit light. What else do we have? We'll do it on We'll do it just for the heck of it. We'll make this one on Purple Posy. So I'm going to use Purple Posy paper for that one. So again, that was from Feels Like Frost. And then for the Come Together, and I'm going to do this. That way it's a little bit longer. So we'll make the longer one with this. And then for Come Together, this has some really, really nice colors in it. So I'll make this kind of more of like a fall pumpkin. I'm going to use this one. I like this one a lot. This one or this one? I'll use this. Hopefully we'll have enough paper with that. Let's see. I'll get the second one out just in case. And we'll make this on Pretty Peacock. So that will be backgrounded onto Pretty Peacock paper. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to make these two projects. They're both very simple. I'm sure I've made these before. So if you you like purple, do you see, if you think, I think the purple will look nice too, but I don't know if it would be wintry enough. So that's just me. I love the frost paper too. The Purple Posy pad, boy, if that's not a tongue twister, is going to be available very soon. They still haven't said yet. They're still testing it, but they said about mid-October it should be orderable. That's from what I saw this morning. So hopefully, I know people have been waiting for that for a long time. So let me see what size this is. That's a little too small. So let me get out my sheet. That one's got some holes punched in it. I know I've been really waiting for that as well, because it's hard to talk about something if you can't really have anybody get it. So I've been trying not to use it as much, for being honest. All right, and then I have a sheet of the peacock, Pretty Peacock. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of like decorate it with some other things. So what we'll do first, not that this one is hard, but we will do the stand-up treat holder first. So I'm going to move this stuff to the side. And then the cool thing is you can kind of change this. You could make it jazzed up if you want to. You could make it simple. It just really depends on what you want to do. So I'm going to grab my trimmer. And also, I just want to clear this up because I know maybe some people have seen it, but apparently the whole trimmer thing, what they've said is that the trimmer is going to be available to demonstrators first, because they want to make sure that it I guess that there's enough for everybody. So demonstrators will be able to order October 1st. They haven't said anything for customers yet, just FYI. So if someone told you you can order them yet, you can't unless you're a demonstrator. You'll be able to order it October 1st to the 31st. And then I think they're going to see what their inventory is. That way they don't advertise it and then they can't fulfill orders. So if you sign up as a demonstrator, or if you are a demonstrator, you will be able to order the new trimmer October 1st to the 31st. However, if you are not, if you're a customer, it's still going to be a little bit of a waiting period. So I just wanted to tell you that, because I know there was some information that was shared and apparently it wasn't supposed to be. So just FYI, I'm sorry if you heard something from someone. I just would rather tell you so you know. So we're going to make this, it's going to be 4 3/4 by 11. So I'm going to trim one of these off to 4 3/4. So again, we're doing this with the Purple Posy paper. So as long as you have the paper, I'm not necessarily using the ink. I just got that out to just show you. And then what we're going to do is you can either do this if you have a trimmer, you can use your trimmer to score, or if you have a simply scored, you could use it, or some other scoring tool. But basically what we're going to do for this is we're going to score it at, if I'm not mistaken, let me see, I want to make sure I tell you, because I usually have it written on the inside, but for some reason on this one I didn't. So we're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to move onto this side. So we're going to do 3/4 of an inch, and then I usually tend to turn it and do the same thing. That way I make sure that it is absolutely uniform, just in case you cut your paper a little bit wonky or something like that happens. So I'm scoring it on both sides like that. And let me open this up and I'm going to write this down when I'm finished. That way we know. Because I believe this is 6 inches and then 6 inches and looks like 4 3/4. So let me just score this and I'm gonna see what it looks like. That way, worst case scenario, I can always tell you to fix it if you need to. Let me just put this on here and see if it lines up. I think it's a little bit short. Let me see. Yeah, that's fairly close. So this one is just going to have just a little bit smaller of a base part. So that was 4 3/4. And then this one would be, oh, that's why, 6 1/4. Ding dong, that's my fault, 6 1/4. So I'm just gonna have 2 score lines. I'm gonna cover mine up though. Okay, so if you're following along doing this, hopefully you didn't already score your paper. I'm sorry if you did. So this measures, oop, that pencil doesn't have a tip. 11 inches for the base by 4 what did I say? 4 3/4. 4 3/4. So that's for the base. And then what we did was we scored it at, score on the 4 3/4 inch side, just for a recap, we scored that at 3/4 of an inch on each side. And then you turned it around and we scored this at 4 3/4. Right, I just want to make sure I'm telling you correctly. I believe we did 4 3/4 and then 6 1/4. 4 3/4 and 6 1/4. Okay, so then all you're going to do, we're going to decorate this. So I'm just putting this on the side just temporarily. Is you're going to fold at the score lines, and this is a really simple fold. Scoring all the score lines. Make sure you use your bone folder just to tighten up your creases. Okay. And then you're going to need either your paper sips or your scissors. It was chilly this morning, thankfully. My goodness, it's been a long enough time. Oop, I forgot one more little thing I wanted to do. We have to do one more little score I forgot about. We're going to do just a little, like a 1/2 inch score to the line here. So what I'm going to do is move that over to a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to score this at the top and at the bottom. And same on this one. I'm going to move this to a 1/2 inch because we need tabs. You could do 1/2. You could do, I'm going to make it 3/4. It was quite chilly this morning, which is perfectly fine with me because our air conditioner is still broken. So 3/4 is right there. Move this up a little bit. And when I put this on the blog later, I will post the measurements. So I ended up changing it to 3/4 of an inch just so there's a little bit bigger of a tab. I will put the measurements, and what I'll do is I'll cut out a template and I'll put everything on there. So I'm going to just snip here for this one. Just like that. There we go. Okay. Then, so these are going to be our tabs. So I am going to go ahead and cut down on this, but I just want to make sure I cut in the right spot. So we're going to cut down here. One of these, I think I didn't cut that one as nice as I could have, but that's okay. And I'm going to cut down here. And I'm going to be honest, I'm making this sound much more complicated than it is. And then we're going to completely remove these. So I'm going to grab my bigger scissors. So try when you do this, just cut on or just slightly past your score line. That way you cut off that lump. Just like that. Oh my goodness, a tornado. That's awful. We haven't had rain in a pretty long time here, and actually the other night it finally rained. I think it's been like a month since we haven't had rain, which is pretty unusual for us. We usually at least get a storm, but when we had that roll in the other night, the temperature finally dropped. And I also have my meteorologist friend Donna on here, because usually whatever weather they get, we get about a day later. So we were talking about air conditioning because my air conditioner is still broken. Hopefully they're bringing the part Thursday and then fixing it either late Thursday or Friday, because we have some older aunts and uncles that are coming to Christian's party, so I don't want them to sweat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just neaten up. So you see this matches exactly. I'm going to just neaten up this right here, just so they fold in. So I'm going to give these just a little miter cut. You don't have to really do on each side, but I'm not going to take any length off though. So same on this one. Get a little bit more of this. Okay, so there's that. And now all we're going to do is trim up some DSP to decorate this with, okay? So we're going to put that on before. So basically this is going to go together like this. And then what we can do is we could use a little punch out here to close it. If you don't like doing punches, you could decorate it with a clip to keep it closed. So just kind of depends. So I just want to measure this off so we get a pretty good. So this is 3 1/4. So I'm going to do it probably, I'm just probably going to do a very slim border. 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. So let's see what we can do. So 4 3/4, that's going to take a pretty big chunk. 3 1/4, I'm going to do, so 3 1/4 would be 3 2/8. So I'm going to do 3 1/8. Oops. By, sorry about that, 4 6/8. I think that should fit. Let's see. Yeah, so it's going to have a very slim border. So that's kind of what I was going for. So let me make sure this, now this one's going to be too small. So what I am going to do is I'm going to make this so it is fronted on one side. And then what we'll do is I'm going to use this piece on the other side, but I'm going to make it 2 layers. So we'll kind of just decide which side is going to end up being the front. So I'm going to trim this down again to the same. And since this is 2 7/8, I'm going to make this so it has a little bit larger of a border, but I'm going to have to trim the side just a smidge so it matches. I'm going to take this down just a little bit. I'm going to take this one down to 4 1/4. I'm going to trim this side because I like the other one. Okay, so then what I'll do is you can border this with another piece of paper if you wanted to. I'm just going to do a piece of white. You could do a piece of foil if you wanted. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and cut this. We said that was 3 1/4. So I'm going to make this 3. And let's see. So if this one here is 3, 4, I would do that. 4 and that. I'm going to do this one at, let's see what looks nice. 4 1/2. So you could do both of them, but also one other thing, this is because this feels like Frost DSP comes in 6x6. So if it was a little bit, if it was full-size sheets, you would not have this problem. So if you choose a piece of DSP that is full-size sheet, you'll be fine. But I'm just making this kind of so I'm using both pieces. And then the other thing about this that's nice is since this paper isn't really directional, you can make it go either way and it's going to look fine. So this one will be bordered and this one will be plain. We could cut them both to be identical, but I don't want to cut that one down again. So we're going to leave that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere my DSP to this white panel. And since this has foil, I'm going to use liquid glue because sometimes the Fast Fuse and the snail and those roller type adhesives don't typically stick to the foil as nicely as you think they would. So I'm going to just use liquid glue. Plus also it kind of gives me a little bit more adjustability if it's not lined up the way I want it. So that looks pretty good there. And then I'm going to do the same when I put this on here. So I'm going to put this facing up. And then I'm going to keep this one, keep it out and do it for the other one as well. All right, now One other thing, just because I have this together, so I'm going to show you what we're going to do before we go on. Not before we go, before we move on, because we're not going anywhere. So you know you're not supposed to really punch too many pieces of paper with the punches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a decision here and say, okay, I'm going to punch. And now I wish I would have put this on the bottom so that thing was there, but that's okay. So I'm going to go kind of making sure I space it evenly. Just visually looking at it. Hoping it seems fairly straight. And I'm going to squeeze. So then I have my little punch that we're going to put ribbon or something through. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up with the other side so you can see the purple showing through. I'm going to put my punch back in. I'm going to line it up. And then I'm going to punch this. Okay, and then that way when I punch through here, I'm really only punching through, I'm going to flip this around. I'm really only punching through these two pieces. That way I'm not punching through three pieces, because it does really put a lot of stress on your punches. So just in case you ever notice that you have a problem with your punches, you don't want to punch a whole lot of stuff at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and put, and this time I'm actually going to put adhesive on here just because I want to avoid this hole since I made it. So I'm going to try to remember that this one isn't quite as big. There we go. And I said I wanted the drops since it has like some frozen dew on it. We'll put this on this side. Line that up. Oh, I only got one little tiny drop of glue. That's pretty good for me. All right, so then, okay. There we go. All right. So I'm going to flip this over. Oh, no worries, Marty. We're glad to have you here. So I'm going to flip this over now, and I'm just going to punch out that white panel. So I'm just kind of lining it up with my punch. And since this does have two pieces of paper, it is a little bit harder to punch. But then hopefully, now this is lined up perfectly. Okay, so all we have to do now is put a little bit of tear and tape, and I am going to use a stronger tape. So you could use tear and tape, or if you have Be Creative tape or Sukwang tape, I have that too because it's from different size. They have different sizes in some other online stores. So whatever you have, but you definitely want to use something very strong. You absolutely could use liquid glue as well, just to give you the spot of being able to maneuver it. So I will actually show you that on this. But sometimes when you just use the liquid glue, it's hard to kind of get it to be in the right spot. So if you want to use liquid glue, what you would do is you're going to just peel this off. And I'm going to take it off all four. And this is the cool part about using liquid glue, because what you do is you have the strength of the tear and tape or whatever you're using, but you get the maneuverability of the liquid glue. So you just put a little bit, does not even need to be this much. I think I'm being a little excessive, but you put a little bit on there. And what it does is it lets you be able to move the thing around if you don't like where it is. So you can kind of move it and hold it where you want it. So there's a little piece here. I'm going to bring in that same side, so I'm just kind of folding this in and making sure I like where I have it. So same for these two. And kind of making sure you want this to be nice and square, so you want that to come to the edge. So if you pushed it too far, you can bring it in a little bit. So there you go. So then what you do is once you have it settled, just give it a press, because then it can more adhere to the tear tape. And then we're going to just close this up just like that. So there is one. Now this will fit, probably you could fit the gushers. I don't know if you'll be able to fit the pretzels because they're a little bit wide. No, you could squeeze them in there. You could definitely fit these candy bars. You could also fit, so you can see the size of this. You could fit a fast fuse container, so it is pretty big. So you could probably put, you could probably even put like some sort of little makeup in there. Now granted, I know this is a little tall, but if you were going to trim it down a little bit, you could also fit some Hershey Nuggets in here. So you can fit those in there. If you were going to do that, I would put a little bit of adhesion on the bottom so it stays in place. Let's see. Something bigger would fit as well. So you could do something tall and something slim. So you can definitely fit a good amount of candy in there. And then all we're going to do for this is we are going to still add something to this to close it, and we'll add a little greeting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a smaller greeting. And actually, since we punched this out, even though I know this is the back side, we could technically decorate it with some of our extra paper. So let me take a look and see what we can do. I'm going to grab one of my... Oh, I thought I had a stamp set here that had some slimmer greetings. Hang on one sec. I'm going to grab my slimmer greetings. So even if you were sending this to someone, not necessarily, like I said, we kind of decorated this for slightly Christmas-ish, but this could be for anything. You could just put like a small sentiment like this in it. So glad to have you in my life. I just got these, by the way, both of these. I finally got this one, Donna. We've been talking about this for a while, so I got that one. But you could also use these too. So let's see. We'll just do 'Tis the Season, because we said we were going to kind of make this like for a winter Christmassy something or other. So we'll do 'Tis the Season. And then we'll back it with something else. Now to make it stand out, I'm going to actually stamp this in something dark. So I'm going to try Blackberry Bliss and see what this looks like. We'll see. Okay, I'm just going to test this out, make sure it's not smudgy. Yeah, this has got a little bit of a something stuck in it. Okay, that's better. So let's see if I can fit this on here without it dropping off or goofing up. All right, so we have 'Tis the Season. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this. So when you have these little sentiments and something that's equally small, what you can do is you can slide it in. Now I know this is double back, so this is going to be a little bit more awkward to fit in here only because it's two pieces versus one. But what I'm going to do is I'm sliding it in and I'm going to trim it out so it's small. So we have a little 'Tis the Season. I probably could take a little off the end, but I don't want to push it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little piece of this from the other side, punch it out, and then add this together. And let's see, I'm just going to do liquid glue. Put this on the back of here. And then we're going to just tie this shut with some ribbon, and we'll add this greeting to it. Oh, look at that. It was smudged. Hold on. Let me do that one again. That's my luck. All right. So I did it on this one. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line this up, if I can get it to go in there. I'm going to line this up, and then I'm going to trim the other side. I tell you, can't take me anywhere. So I'm going to do the same thing again. So just in case you missed it, I'm going to feed this in to the punch. Come on, Rachel. You can do it. Well, maybe that other piece of paper did help me. There we go. So I'm just feeding this in. And trim. Oh, goodness gracious. I cut it off. Sweet Jesus. So don't do this. Oh gosh, and that's all gummy. How many times does it take a person to stamp a sentiment before the sentiment is correct and not smudged? And I clearly need to add my cling back labels to these because they don't stay on the stamps. Son of a biscuit. There we go. All right, let me try this again. Okay, that's good enough. Let's just see if I can just do it without. breaking it. Oh, tea packets. That's a really good idea. Tea packets would be nice. All right, let me try this again. This also has some crazy background on it because I was fooling around with something testing it out. So it's got some oh, I know what I did. It's when we were spraying with the, all right, I'm going to hold this in place this time to make sure it doesn't cut incorrectly. It's when we were spraying with the masks. All right, there we go. Hallelujah. And the dyed ink. That's what we were doing. All right, so a little liquid glue on there. Whew, that was painful. And then I'm just going to kind of line this up. So it's kind of in the middle. I don't want to press it yet because I'm afraid it might still be wet and I'll end up ruining it again. So let me just grab some ribbon and we will tie this close. Now the cool part is we have all of these ribbons to be able to use. So we could even incorporate a little bit of Seaside spray would be pretty. I'm going to do that because that's a really pretty ribbon. So I have a little bit of Seaside spray and then somehow we're going to add that little 'Tis the Season to it. So I know this is a little big, so you could certainly go with a smaller one if you wanted to, but just for sake of doing it, we're going to do it like this. I'll bring this over. And just remember, depending on your treat, you might want to have this kind of already tied, or stuffed, I should say, before you tie it. And let me make this a little bit longer. One other thing I want to show you. And I can't remember who I watched do this before, but it's been a while. But if you want your bows to be straight across, what you want to do is, it takes a little bit of practice, but you want to learn to tie them backwards. So normally we go around this way. So if you want them to be straight, you actually want to wrap it around the back. It's also really hard to do on camera. But you want to wrap it around the back, and it kind of tends to make your bows. So the bow part, of course, except this time, makes me look like a liar, will be straighter. Let me grab my snips. Okay, so there's that, and I'm just gonna snip this one off. Well, I promise you, when you're not doing a recording, it almost works every single time. Okay, so then you could do that, do this, make sure it's pulled tight, and since I added that up top just like that, I'm going to just put this down at the bottom. But I am going to put it on with some dimensionals. I'll put it on with a couple mini dimensionals, just so it looks a little bit more fun popped up. Ay caramba. Okay, so painful as the sentiment was, look, and I think I did smudge it again, but that's it. Can't go back now. So these are pretty simple. If you have like some DSP, you maybe have hoarded, like someone who's videotaping this that you may or may not know, or some paper that you wanted to get rid of that maybe wasn't your favorite color, you could find a nice one to go with. But there, little box. Again, you can fit lots of little treats in here. I'll just put that one in just so it holds it down. So that's pretty simple. You could use any paper. Another fun thing you could do if you wanted to, just to give it like a little bit of a fancier look depending on it, is you could also use the trio punch and round the corners of these. So leave the bottom straight and then round the tops. It will make it have like a nice pretty look. But I think the label with the front and the layer versus the back, you could do both. I think looks really neat. But this paper is very, very pretty. So really simple for that. Okay, so there's one. So now, let's see, where's that from? Let me see if I can put this mess away and we'll get through the second one, hopefully without as many problems. It says ink all over it. No wonder I'm covered in ink. Must have had a Blackberry Bliss explosion. All right, so let me clean a few of these little things up. Skipped out to order a birthday present. How dare you? All right, so for the second one, let me move this over. What we will do is, where's my card? This one's really super easy. I know I probably said that about the last one too, but this one's really easy as well. Put this back up here so it's out of the way. All right, so this one is just a 2-4-6-8 box, and then you have a little 1/2 inch. So this is pretty simple. So for this one, I'm actually going to pull out the Simply Scored to do the scoring for it. So you can get, I think you could get 2 of these out of one sheet because it does fit completely crossways. So let me show you. All right, so this measures, this is 8.5. So we have 8.5 there by, we'll say, about 8.5. So you probably could almost get 2 out of, but what we're going to do is we're going to do our scoring first. Okay, so we're going to score at, you can make this open or close, whichever way you like. But what we're going to do is we're going to score at 2. Make sure you guys can see that you're in there. One of my feet fell off again. So 2, 4, 6, 8. So then that 8 is going to give you your flap. So this one technically is just backwards like that, if it makes sense. Okay, so then we're going to do the same thing. Because you want your box to be square, you're going to do it again at 2, 4, 6. Okay, so you can see your squares here. So 2, 4, 6, and then this is about 1/2 inch, so we'll say 6.5. So we do have this piece left over. You could probably do something else with, but let me grab my trimmer, and I'm going to trim the end of this off. That way it's a nice clean cut. Okay, so then you have your box, which is just like this, and this is going to be our template. Okay, so once again, what we're going to do is we do need to keep our trimmer handy because we are going to need to trim up our DSP, but you're going to score it and then just reinforce it with your bone folder. And through doing this, what I did was, when I first did some of these boxes, I'm sure you've seen, other people have made boxes, but a lot of times, depending on where the flaps are, sometimes I will kind of fool with how the tabs work, because the closing tabs versus the flap tabs kind of work better in different directions. I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove this first. So we're going to just miter cut here and here, and then I'm going to take this one completely off, and then same for this, I'm taking this thin strip off. Okay, and then you're going to cut down to the second score line all the way across. Okay, this one here, we're going to completely remove. So we're going to just take this off now. Okay, and then we're going to cut up again to the score line for the bottom flaps. Okay, so while I'm trimming, and then I'm going to take off, this one is going to stay, so we're going to just give this a little, and I say very small when I say a very small miter cut here, because you want it to be able to kind of hold your box in if you decide not to close it with ribbon. And then we're going to just trim down these 2 tabs here. So you can trim these down as short or as tall as you want, but I'm going to take a little bit of height and a little bit of miter cutting to these as well. So I'll just go kind of half, just eyeballing it, and then give these a little miter cut. So the other day I was watching Coal Miner's Daughter, which apparently when I was growing up kind of came back to me. That used to be one of my very favorite movies, which is kind of funny because I'm not really, will tell you, I'm not really like a huge like country fan. I never really liked country music. It is growing on me more, but... And I'm going to do one other thing with this. I'm going to give, because I want to see which of these is going to be the close. Hold on one second. Because one of these you want to leave nice and straight. So typically, the one that's in the front... So this will close up, but it's a little bit tight. So this one we're going to leave square. I'm going to trim just a teeny bit off and a teeny miter cut on everything but the front. So the front one is the one that doesn't have the flap. So I'm going to give these just a little bit of just a small trim. But I like that, and apparently I also used to really like watching Sweet Dreams, which was Patsy Cline's, I guess, biopic or movie or whatever you called it. Back then, before we named everything, right? And just realizing that Sissy Spacek, who played Loretta Lynn got married, I think when she was like 12, which I'm laughing at now, but, and I think she had like her first kid at like 13 or 14. Is that not the craziest thing you've ever heard, like now that you think about it? All right, so here's what your box looks like. Just the same. So we're going to trim up our squares that we decorate this with just a tad bit smaller. It's not going to be hugely smaller. So these measure 2. So I'm going to maybe do like 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 and 7/8, I think, for the paper. But just funny thinking about that. I'm going to try to stick with just this to keep it uniform. So we'll see. Look at you, Anita. It's under 80 degrees. Isn't that funny? All right, so I have 1 7/8, and I'm going to just make it square. So we'll see how many we can get. I think we can get 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do 5 because I'm going to put one on the top just for the heck of it. And technically, since we can get 3, we could actually also put one inside, so it kind of lightens the inside of it up a little bit. But, and a lot of my family is from actually not so far away from where Loretta Lynn and, so her sister I think was Crystal Gale, and then there was another sister, and I cannot remember her name right now, the other one that was famous. There was like a lot of musical people in that family. That's how they used to do it. You got that right, Donna. All right, so we're going to put these on, and I'm going to put these on before we adhere it, just because I think it looks a little bit nicer. If you wanted to, like these two line up, you could keep them so they lined up. So if you found the other parts that might potentially match up, we could do that. But I think because we had 3 across, I don't think any of these matched. Oh, this one does. So we'll go down to here. So we'll put these on, and then we're going to put on a top box. So remember, this is going to go the other way because the flap is going to close. So we'll look at that before we do it, and then we'll keep one for the inside. So just for quickies, I'm going to just do this with Fast Fuse. If you wanted to make sure you were really straight when you did it, you could absolutely use liquid glue. And Donna, I haven't seen Lisa on lately. How's she doing? How are her and John doing? Are they so busy so busy making tipsy she doesn't have time to watch Facebook Lives maybe, huh? Lisa and her husband John are the one that make all these cool products that we have on here. So the tipsy and then all these other fancy holders I have. I'm going to put some tear and tape on. Loretta was 15 with her first kid. It's just crazy, isn't it? Can you imagine having a kid at 15? Oh my God. All right, so we're going to end up closing this like this. So we're going to fold our flaps in. So we're going to put this one. I'm going to do this one because I like this better. So I'm going to just put this on while I'm here. I just wanted to make sure I had it straight. And if you wanted like a little flare, you could flip it to the other side. But I'm being honest, I don't really like the other side. I like this side of the paper much better. And then we will take this off. Take our little flap off. And close it up and just give it a really hard press. So then all you have to do really is you really can just put adhesive on this part if you want. If you felt like you absolutely wanted to, you could put it on all 4 of the flaps, but you don't have to. So while we're open, I'm going to just put some, I'll just put a piece down here and one on the top. Put just a little bit tear and tape. You could use fast fuse. I definitely would use something on any of these projects that's stronger than snail. So if you have fast fuse laying around, great. If not, get some sort of a strong adhesive or use liquid glue. Because if they're going to be opened and closed. So I'm going to fold both the sides in, then the bottom. Then, oh, let me just trim this just a hair. Just like that. And it's perfectly square, should be. And then you can kind of take your bone folder and put it in there. So if you wanted to, you could put this on the inside just to kind of make it look cute. You could put it on the inside flap if you wanted to. So we'll do that for this one, just to change it up a little bit. Optional, but if you have extra piece of paper that you're probably going to just save for no reason like I do, might as well use it for something else, right? So then we're going to close this, and you just close your flap. So probably could fit maybe one of these gushers. No, you could do a fruit by the foot. I don't think you could fit the gushers in, but you could definitely fit like some sort of a fruit by the foot. You could also fit a lip balm, like those round lip balms, or I'm trying to think what else, some other sort of a candy thing. Not really much Stampin' wise for foot in there, unless you want to empty some dimensional or some embellishments. But what we're going to do is we're going to just tie this off with a little bit of ribbon. And since I have it out, I'm going to use, this comes in a dual pack. So anybody that got the ribbon share has this. So the crumb cake is like a satin edged, and then the Cajun Craze is a linen thread. So you can take this and tie it just really nicely around the top. So I'm going to just tie this in just off in a knot, and then we'll stamp something and we'll add it with the linen thread. So just for the sake of, I'm not quite finished with that yet, but I'm going to trim that off, and then we'll add whatever we're going to add with this. And let me see what we have here. We could do Wishing You Well. How about we'll do Gather Together? That way we could use something that's a little bit different of a shape. And this is photopolymer. I have a piece of white here. What we'll do is we'll cut this out with a circle, we'll pop a hole in it, and then we'll add it. And to keep with the color, I'm going to do Pretty Peacock. There she is. Got our Crafter Solution girl on there. Thanks for sharing that, Kathy. Alright, so Gather Together. Now, for the sake of adding just like a little bit of something else in, since we have that Cajun Craze ribbon, what I'm going to do is I have the wheat. And instead of doing Cajun Craze, I'm going to do it in Terracotta Tile, which is kind of same color family, but I'm going to make it lighter. So I'm going to stamp it off and then stamp for both. Okay, so let me close this up. Then I'm going to run this through, and I have the stitch shapes, and I'm going to use the smallest stitch circle. I think should fit this. Oh, it's a little tight, but we're going to make it work. So I'm going to cut this out. Let's see how close it is. It's still on there. That's about all that counts sometimes. So then what I'm going to do is, if you don't, so here's an idea I wanted to share with you. In case you don't have a hole punch or something, what you can do is you can use either your paper piercer if you have one, or if you need a bigger hole, you can use this as on the end of your take your pick tool. So I'm going to kind of just punch a little hole here. I'm going to show you. So you could do a small hole, but we all know we can't possibly get that linen thread through there. So I'm going to just push it just a little bit bigger. But if you push it through all the way, you can definitely make this like a pretty large size hole. So let me put this through. And thankfully, the people at Stampin' Up! Must know that whoever's using this first can't get it through because they wrapped this end with tape. So good idea in case you can't get yours to work. I am going to just tie this on with just a little knot. Just like that, so it stays where I have it. All right, and then I'm going to equal this off and put this here. So let me just tie this just a little bit nicer. And at this point, you could also do one of two things. If you have a hard time threading stuff through, what you could do is you can make a little knot, close it kind of up so you have room. Then you could feed this through here like that. Again, when you're doing this, you do want to make sure whatever treats you're putting in there are already in there. So we're just going to kind of set this down, pull this tight. We can always adjust that if we need. And come on, Rach. You can do it. So if you wanted to, now since at least this is on here, I'm going to neaten this up just a little. The other side already trimmed, so I'm going to leave that one alone. And if you wanted to let this hang a little bit more, you could kind of feed this through, let it hang. Or if you felt like you want to make it a little bit tighter now, you could bring this back up and make your knot just a little bit tighter. See if I can get it to go through. And then I'm just going to trim this part off. So there you go. So not too bad. Pretty fun. So let me move these. I'm going to lay this one flat just so you can see what it looks like. And then we have this one here that's decorated, which I think these colors really go very, very nicely together. So I hope you all have enjoyed this long journey. Let's see. Still 10:30. That's surprising even to me. Because sometimes I kind of start and I feel like I get started and I'm like, whoa, this is going to be fast. And it's never fast, but I'm surprised that somehow I still almost always end at exactly an hour. So if you'd like to get any of the supplies to make these projects, you could head to my online store. Go ahead and shop with this code if you're going to go there, because then you will earn freebies from me as well. I do send out a thank you for each and every order that I get. I always send out a thank you card and usually some little goodie that I have that maybe is retired or I was able to get a really good deal in the clearance rack, which is what I use these hostess codes for, to get little goodies to send out to people. So I thank you all once again so much for joining me. And if you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to me. I have many places you can find me. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, my blog, and Facebook at Rachthestamper. And what I'm going to do is, just in case you're new, I was going to say, let me see if I can go on here and see. Usually, when you go on the page, this would be where you can adjust your notifications, whether or not you do or don't want to see something. So typically you might want to go to your Facebook page, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Linda, because I do follow Linda, and we'll see. Sometimes what you have to do with these, I know this is annoying that I keep having to show you this, but you know, Facebook is crazy. What you have to do is you have to find out with your following if you have notifications on, if you just have highlights. But I have standard, so it could mean if there's a lot of them. And I tend to put some of them as see first. Some people that I follow, typically it's Disney World stuff if we're being honest. But you could change it to default. So you do want to make sure you have your notifications tab at least selected on there. That way you know you definitely will be able to find someone that it is that you watch. So once again, thank you all so much for stopping by. I will put both measurements for these projects onto my blog later today. So you don't have to worry about if you wrote the measurements down. I'll have everything all ready for you. And what I'll do is when I do this particular project, I'm going to put them both. So if you were to use a piece of DSP, you would use 2 of this. But if you were to want to do the layered, 2 of the layered pieces, I'll put this. So I'll put 2 for the layers, or I'll put 2 for just the straight DSP. And then same thing again, you only really need 4 pieces of this unless you want to do the top, which I think is nice. But if you have an extra piece, you could either put it on the inside lid or on the inside bottom. Just makes it look really nicely finished. So if you do shop, I truly appreciate your support if you shop with me. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you again real soon.